is the Provoked Prawn, and this is a video to compare two wireless SteelSeries mice, the Prime WIreless and the SteelSeries Aerox 3. I've unboxed and reviewed both these mice, and I'll link to those videos in the description so you can find out more and check those out. I also want to quickly note that the Aerox 3 has just been updated with a new version for 2021. This is not that mouse. I'm going to do a video hopefully on that in the near future, so be sure to come back for that. But what I wanted to do is talk about the original Aerox 3 and the Prime WIreless and give you a comparison between the two, because they're obviously vastly different, as you can see from the shots. Now, the SteelSeries Prime WIreless is a fairly understated looking mouse, but one that still has a lot to offer. You can get up to 100 hours of battery life out of it. It has USB-C fast charging, which you can get 40 hours of battery life in just 15 minutes of charge. It has a USB-C 2.4 GHz wireless dongle with an extender and adapter that allows you to not only put it on your desk, but also make use of a standard USB-A port if you don't happen to have a USB-C port on your PC. This is an interesting mouse for a number of different reasons. The 100 hours of battery life is obviously fantastic, but it also has some very nice specs. It's not quite as capable as the wired version, but it still does have 18,000 max CPI, 400 IPS and 40 Gs acceleration, as well as 1000 Hertz polling rate. It's also a very capable and surprisingly good despite its understated look and feel. The USB-C cable is nice for fast charging capabilities, but one of the problems I found is it's a little tricky to plug in sometimes. It's a bit fiddly. It's not really straightforward and simple. The charging cable is, however, nice and floppy and easy to use, and it doesn't cause extra problems. It does add some extra weight in, obviously, but it is very flexible, and so you don't have any resistance from that, which is a bonus. Obviously, being able to plug it in for a very short period of time and get quite a lot of extra battery life means that you don't need to necessarily plug it in for too long, which is great. On the underside, you'll see there's some nice slick PTFE areas, and this thing moves around quite well on the desk. It is a reasonably small but not tiny mouse, a nice size, a nice fit for me, and an overall good look. Now, this mouse weighs in at about 112 grams with its cable and roughly 80 grams without that cable, obviously in wireless mode, which is where it shines. It's a little heavier than other SteelSeries lightweight mice that aren't wireless, and obviously the reason for that is it has that extra technology inside. I don't think this is a bad thing. 80 grams is not terribly heavy, 82 as you can see here roughly for me, and it is still a very nice mouse. It is a very slick looking affair, and it uses ABS matte plastic finish to give you this sort of micro-textured matte grip, which means it's easy to hold on to and easy to game with. It's also quite nice looking, despite only having one RGB lighting zone, which you can see on the mouse wheel. The mouse wheel is also an indicator to let you know what CPI level you're at. So on the underside, there's a button that allows you to change CPI level. And unfortunately, I couldn't demonstrate it here because you need it plugged into the PC first to do that. But I showed it off in the software and in the review. Basically, when you press that CPI button, the mouse color changes to let you know what level you're at. So you have a visual cue to let you know where you are. The most satisfying thing about this mouse, though, is the optical mechanical switches. So it has an optical setup in terms of the left and right switches, which are guaranteed up to 100 million clicks. They also give an incredibly tactile, clicky, and satisfying response from their clicks that is wonderful. It's very accurate and wonderful in a number of different ways in terms of the gaming response. It's very satisfying click action from it, but also actuates really quickly thanks to that optical setup. So this mouse should last quite a long time, and it obviously has the advantage over the Aerox 3, which only uses traditional mechanical switches, which are guaranteed up to 80 million clicks. So this should last longer than the Aerox 3. Also moves around the desk really nicely. If you've got a good mouse pad, it will just flick around really easily. It's just a very nice mouse to use. This is one of my favorite wireless mice of late, despite being quite understated. However, I should note that one big downside for me is the side buttons. Unfortunately, the thumb buttons on the left hand side are a little tricky to press They're a little bit too recessed, they're not terribly easy, and that's a shame, and one thing that lets it down. And despite what appears to be a complete lack of grips in terms of textures or any sort of rubber finish, this mouse actually stays in the hand really well and is easy to hold on to, even if you are a hot-handed gamer, which I definitely am. The result is a very nice mouse with a lot more on offer than immediately meets the eye. It might not look like the fanciest thing, but the specs and the setup main is very capable. It is worth noting though that the wired version actually has better IPS and acceleration, so it is a bit faster, and if you want something that gives you the very best results, then you might want to go for the Prime Plus. But for me, the Prime Wireless has been a fantastic experience. Really enjoyed using it. It's very agile and responsive, and it's been great for gaming sessions. I did think it was quite an odd change for the way SteelSeries has gone though. If you look at the SteelSeries Aerox 3, again this is the original version, it's quite a different looking mouse. This is quite a different shape. It also has a very different setup in terms of the overall aesthetic, with a lot more RGB lighting going on. Both mice are designed for claw or fingertip grip and allow you for a nice ergonomic right-handed grip. They're both also ABS plastic with that sort of matte finish on them, but what you will note is obviously the SteelSeries Aerox 3 has that honeycomb design. This means it's a lot lighter weight. This weighs in around 66 grams, which is considerably lighter than the Prime Wireless, which is interesting. Also has better battery life over Bluetooth. That's right, this mouse has not only 2.4 gigahertz wireless, but it also has Bluetooth capability, so you actually have the option of connecting in more ways, which is interesting. You can get up to 200 hours over Bluetooth or 80 hours over the 2.4 gigahertz. So over a standard wireless, which admittedly is the one you'll be using it in mostly if you're gaming, because that gives the lower latency, you will get more battery life out of the Prime Wireless than you will out of the Aerox 3, but in theory you can get a lot out of this with Bluetooth if you choose to use it in that mode. Obviously you have a lot more RGB lighting, so that's part of the reason for the lower battery life. Now the setup is quite similar. You'll see, for example, that you have the USB-C connection dongle in the box. You also have that same adapter, a similar adapter that allows you to put the extension on your desk so you can get the signal close to you, but also so that the cable's within reach so you can plug it in if and when you need to. But it also means that if you don't have a USB-C port on your PC, then you still have the ability to plug this in, then USB-C cable to USB-A connection on your PC. Very straightforward setup, and really nice that they've included USB-C, where some other companies are still using micro USB on their peripherals. So this setup is very good in terms of what you can do with it. Now both these mice have SteelSeries TrueMove optical sensor, the TrueMove Air, and so they both give it a good response. They both have up to 18,000 CPI as well. They're also comparable in terms of IPS and acceleration. So the Aerox 3 has 400 IPS and 40 Gs acceleration too. So that is very interesting because they both basically have similar specs under the hood, with the main difference being that the Prime Wireless has the optical mechanical switches, whereas the Aerox 3 has the mechanical standard setup. So quite different, but also quite similar in a number of different ways. Now I really enjoyed the Aerox 3 when I used it. I found it was a very good mouse, very easy on the eye, and a very nice design. I think that the Prime Wireless is a little bit smaller, and if you want to see the wired versions of these two stacked up side by side, be sure to check out the link in the description, because I did a comparison with those two so you can see the difference there. Unfortunately, I don't have the Aerox 3 wireless to be able to show you side by side along the Prime Wireless anymore, but I do think they are quite similar in sort of the setup of them, and yet vastly different. You'll note from this close-up that matte finish. One of the things I've found is that the Aerox 3, I didn't have a problem with the side buttons, so there was no issues there. The click response from it is also very nice, but also obviously not as good as that on the Prime Wireless. One thing that you will note though is there is another difference, is that the Aerox 3 has a button on top to change between the CPI levels. so it's not on the underside, which is my preference actually, because it makes it a lot more accessible. You will see the response from this is very good. It doesn't have loads of horrible play in it, and obviously the bonus of being ultra lightweight. The Aerox 3 wireless is also designed to resist dust and dirt ingress, so it's designed that it won't be a problem, that over time those sorts of things won't cause issues, so it's actually intelligently designed in that way. You'll notice the RGB lighting runs along the bottom in a strip and also glows nicely through the housing. So if RGB is your thing, then this is the one to go for. Both these mice have some really intelligent power saving settings within the software that I covered in the reviews that essentially mean that it saves as much battery as possible, and also things like the RGB will turn off when the mouse is moving. So if you're using it and moving it around, the RGB is off, which means it can last longer. The Prime Wireless is my choice out of the two, but they're both fantastic for different reasons. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.